Zoro is probably one of the best written characters ever, but definitely in One Piece. What up, y'all? Back again with another video. We got Wano Zoro. I ain't gonna lie, a lot of time and effort went into this video, so I'll appreciate it if y'all hit that like button and if y'all hit that subscribe button. Let's try to get this video up to 100 likes. Man, give us a like if you like my boy Zoro, man. We gonna get into this video though. Zoro is like one of the realest characters that I've seen probably in any anime. Super loyal, just there, ridiculously strong, and despite how people who don't know him, so people outside of the Straw Hats view him as like some sort of demon or somebody with an ominous aura, if you know him like the Straw Hats do, man, you know you got a real one on your team. Back in Romance Dawn, Zoro had already been captured by the Navy, so he was already facing a life and death situation. He'd been strung up for about 9 days and was completely exhausted, and a little girl actually tries to help him by feeding him. He threatens the girl, stating that if she doesn't leave, he was gonna kill her. And yes, it sounds extreme, but then when you think of the caliber of person he was dealing with, Helmeppo, a bratty kid who spent most of his time just abusing his power off the strength of his dad's name, you kind of understand why Zoro went to such extreme lengths to protect the girl. The girl gets caught and she's thrown out, but as a result of that interaction, Zoro ends up being sentenced there for a whole month. And I mean, he didn't do the month, of course, because Luffy set him free, but it really kind of shows you what kind of person he is, going that far just to protect the girl. Also, thank you for 2K. We moving. One thing about Zoro is that he's very goal-orientated and goal-driven. And when he fought Mihawk, I'm pretty sure deep down he may have known that he was outclassed, but he didn't actually let that stop him from challenging the world's greatest swordsman in order to take his title. Zoro's a man of honor and deep down has the true essence that makes a swordsman. Despite losing the duel with Mihawk, he took Mihawk's final attack on the chest because he knew for a fact that a slash on a swordsman's back was a swordsman's shame. After this humbling moment, Zoro actually declares to Luffy that he will become the world's greatest swordsman and won't lose to anybody until he defeats Mihawk. And at this point addresses Luffy as king of the pirates. So before Skypiea, Luffy and Zoro engage with Bellamy. Bellamy is the personification of misery loves company. Nami was at the bar asking the directions to the Sky Island, and one thing with Luffy and Zoro, right? Actually with any of the Straw Hats, but these two particularly, is that their dreams can't be broken. Luffy's dream is to become the king of the pirates, and Zoro's dream is to become the world's greatest swordsman. And the thing is with Bellamy, right? Bellamy is a pirate that has no drive or ambition. So Bellamy decides to swing on Luffy, and just as Luffy's ready to retaliate, he actually sits there and he tells Zoro, you know what? Don't even respond. And I can understand why he does this, because when you think about it, you won't attack somebody who can't actually hurt you. Zoro and Luffy's dreams are unbreakable to the point where they decide not to retaliate. And the reason why they don't retaliate is the simple fact that Bellamy actually attacked their dreams. And you know, because of just how strong and solidified their foundations are, they don't retaliate because they know for a fact that that's the end goal and they're going to meet that goal. But the fact that Zoro didn't do anything at all shows his loyalty to Luffy, but also shows to you how goal-driven he is. We already know that Luffy's going to become king of the pirates. He knows this himself. But then to see Zoro be able to do that same thing really shows you his dedication to Luffy. Zoro in Water 7 really shows why he's the vice captain and really the backbone behind the Straw Hats when you think about it. Usopp challenged Luffy to a duel and lost the duel, and I mean at that point he had left the crew. And the thing is, being a pirate isn't some small time game, it's a big game where they're going after real ambitions. And you can't play silly games like that to the point where you decide to be a part of it and then casually just leave. And Zoro has a very strong point, and the thing is, it was so strong that Sanji agreed with him. And it's interesting because Zoro and Sanji bicker back and forth and whatnot, but the fact that Sanji actually agreed with him really shows to you how heavy that point was. And honestly, it really shows to you just Zoro's dedication to the crew, knowing that he's also sworn his loyalty to the crew and to Luffy. He goes one step further to state that if you can't act like a captain in this situation, he'll be the next one to leave. And it really shows to you how serious Zoro's goals are to him and how important it is that they actually make it out of this and together as a crew. Thriller Bark really just shows you how dedicated Zoro is to Luffy as a person. Zoro fights with Kuma, to which he doesn't lose, but Zoro does realize that he's definitely outclassed. So Zoro decides to beg Kuma to spare Luffy's life. Sanji actually jumps in and tries to actually sacrifice himself, but Zoro knocks him out pretty quickly. Kuma extracts all of Luffy's pain and decides to give Zoro a little taste. And then it gets even crazier because from that moment on, Zoro decides to jump into the bubble of Luffy's pain and stress. And Luffy wakes up and he's completely fine. To which Kuma's gone and Sanji finds Zoro in a pool of his own blood, asking what actually happened. And Zoro just responds with, nothing happened. It really just demonstrates how dedicated Zoro is to the Straw Hats and his captain Luffy. Time skip was probably one of the craziest moments for me. When you think of how the time skip was set up for each Straw Hat, right? I mean, Sanji got sent, well, he got sent somewhere else. Everybody else got sent to their respective islands, but Zoro got sent to Mihawk's island, right? And the craziest part of this whole situation, right, was that Zoro had to beg the man that he is trying to defeat in order to become stronger just for Luffy. Do you know how much respect you have to have for another man to be able to cast your own dreams aside to some extent just to fulfill the dreams of somebody else? That's incredible. Zoro got on his hands and his knees and begged Mihawk. And the thing is, Mihawk trained him for the 2 years, but it really makes you sit there and think how much respect that Zoro has for Luffy for him to go to that extent. Now, bearing in mind, Zoro doesn't bow down to anybody. There's a moment in Punk Hazard where Luffy loses to Caesar. Well, he doesn't lose, but he drops his guard against Caesar, which kind of makes him lose that exchange. And Zoro actually sits there and he yells to Luffy like, yo, get a grip, like we're in the new world, like we can't be out here playing around anymore. And it constantly just shows you again that Zoro is the backbone of the Straw Hats, that despite how much fun Zoro actually has, he's ultimately there just to work. He's the man that'll get you back on track. Wano really showed moments about Zoro that he genuinely cares for others and is willing to put his life on the line just so that other people can prosper. So for example, when Yasui was actually killed at that public execution, Zoro actually wanted blood and was out to kill Orochi. While Yasui got killed, the public were laughing at him, but it wasn't because they found it funny. They were actually crying, but because of the effects of the smile fruit, they were laughing as opposed to crying. And the moment Zoro saw Orochi, he launched a sword slash at him to the point where Orochi would have definitely died if that had hit him. And he's lucky that Kyoshiro actually intercepted the attack. Zoro's final opponent ended up being King, but it was such a great moment seeing Zoro actually fight with Luffy as they were going against Kaido. And even just moments in that fight where Kaido and Big Mom launched that Haikai technique, the person who jumped in to block the attack by himself was Zoro. He blocked it for a moment, enough for everybody else to escape, but this man is always willing to put his life on the line for others. Luffy gets knocked out, Kid is with Killer, and they've gone with Big Mom. So at this point, it's literally Law and Zoro versus Kaido. And the moment Kaido was actually going to finish off Luffy, Zoro intercepted and stated, "You can't go after my captain, you can get me instead." And he goes to attack Kaido. There are so many more moments where Zoro's dedication to the crew and to Luffy really shines through. And it really just shows you that despite the fact that he has such a demon aura, he's really a kind and caring man that'll go far for anybody. mostly people who can't actually fend for themselves. So for example, when he fought with Pika and Pika was going after the civilians, of course the civilians aren't strong enough to fight Pika and the rest of the Don Quixote crew, and that actually upset Zoro, and because of that, Zoro made quick work of Pika the moment the time was right. This man even made a lifelong promise to his best friend Kuina, who was unable to fulfill her dreams of becoming the world's strongest swordsman. One, because she felt that because she was a woman, of course women aren't as strong as men. So she always sat there and thought deep down that regardless of how much I train, I'll never be as strong as the guys. And Zoro said, hey, it doesn't matter, man, just keep training, keep going at it, and you could do whatever you want. And he's kept her sword the whole series as a memento to fulfill that promise. And honestly, nothing better than being a selfless man like that. To wrap up, Zoro is a phenomenal character, and honestly, I think that just his growth, his dedication to his crew, the way he cares for people, and the way he's willing to protect others is literally unmatched. I can't actually think of a character in any anime that rivals the kind of character that Zoro actually is. And I'm very curious to see how this series ends and how his relationship with Luffy gets even better. At this point in time, he will ride and die for Luffy at this point, and Luffy will ride for him also. But honestly, that's enough for me. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all later, man.